Welcome back, everyone, to another McGibblets Commissioner Update. This time to recap all the action from Week 3 and look ahead at Week 4. Out of Austin, Texas, I'm Andrew, Mr. Marbles Chambers, and as always, I'm joined by Raleigh's own Ethan Sub Rosa Comeback Tour Cook. E, excited to have you on.
Well, Andrew, I would say it's a pleasure. Yeah, well, I'd say it's a pleasure. It's fine.
Thank you. To start off this week's episode, we're going to take a look at some of the matchups from Week 3 that we were keeping an eye on, and also talk about an absolutely dominating performance that bumped a new team up to that number 2 overall spot.
Freaking excited!
First matchup of the week, Stained Wall of Peen falls to Sub Rosa Comeback Tour. E, congratulations on the win. Hawkinson really let you down as tight end, but the rest of your team pulled through for you in the clutch. I mean, you got some great performances, especially out of Cooper Kupp. He put up almost 28 points off of 2 touchdowns and over 100 receiving yards. Now, on the flip side, Glenn and Stained Wall of Peen were let down by the Packers, who received some subpar performances from Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers.
Where is Aaron right now?
The score remained tight through Sunday afternoon, but Sub Rosa Comeback Tour managed to pull away and come out with the win, 135-107. Which brings us to our second match. Thrilla in Manila, Clash of the Titans, Steve's Dumpster Fire versus Joshua's team. Now, coming out of a league-leading performance in Week 2, we were all excited to see Steve's Dumpster Fire dethrone the king in Joshua's team. Now, if you were following our update from last week, we got an exclusive interview with Steve Owens himself where he filled us in on his strategy. Simple. Play whoever has the most projected points. Unfortunately, this strategy failed him.
I failed you!
End of the day, Steve's Dumpster Fire falls 132-111, leaving Joshua's team as the lone undefeated team left in the league.
Well, speaking of Steve's Dumpster Fire, there was a little bit of breaking news and a little bit of controversy earlier this Wednesday. It seems that there were 2 teams tied at the record of 2-1 looking to spruce up their tight end game. The target was Steve's Dumpster Fire's George Kittle. Now, Kittle was last year's tight end number 2 overall, but so far he just hasn't lived up to the hype. So the 2 parties that were interested was yours truly, Sub Rosa Comeback Tour, and Mr. Marbles. But it just seems as though that Sub Rosa's Comeback Tour offer was just that much better. But at the end of the day, it seems as though, Andrew, you weren't too happy about this now, were you?
No, damn you, no. Damn you to hell. I proposed a trade for Kittle early this week. But no. Then you come out with your Sonny Michelle, and you're like, give me that Kittle.
But don't worry, that's only the start of some of these trades, and there should be a few more before the end of the November deadline, so don't worry about it.
Thank you. So, back to Steve's Dumpster Fire. They fall as number 2, which opens the door for a new team to step in and claim that spot. Enter Tim's swell team.
Walk into the club like, what up?
Talk about dominating. Just so you're aware, Tim's swell team could have had 5 of his 9 players this week put up goose eggs, and he still would have had enough points to beat over half the league this week. Okay, Russell Wilson put up 41 points after throwing for over 400 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and he rushed for 2 more.
Got him.
McCaffrey put up 26 of his own, half of which came on a single play when he ran it 75 yards for a touchdown.
Got him.
Even Mark Ingram, he found the end zone 3 times.
Got him.
Do you see where I'm going with this? I mean, his team was a touchdown machine this week, when even Evan Ingram on his bench put up 20. Now, Tim's opponent, Michael Swell team, was able to get a career performance out of Mike Evans, who put up 41 points of his own, but the rest of his team failed to deliver. Tim cruises to an easy victory, 151-117. Cruises.
Baby, you a song.
Looking ahead, I'm excited to see what Tim's swell team is able to do in Week 4 when they play, surprise, surprise, Sub Rosa Comeback Tour.
I want to show you something. It's my shocked face.
Ethan, you and Tim took home the number 1 and number 2 spots in points scored last week. Now, with that said, Tim's team still outscored you by 15 points, they're looking pretty delicious right now. Okay, Christian McCaffrey is poised to take on a larger role with Cam out, and the Giants are just going to keep turning to Evan Ingram more and more now that Saquon Barkley is going to miss a couple of weeks. So how confident are you feeling going into this Week 4 matchup?
Now, it doesn't show up on paper as a close matchup, but if you look a little bit closer, it should be closer than expected. Both teams are looking to keep their records rolling, and the matchups I'm talking about. Right off the bat, I'm looking at the battle at QB, Dak Prescott versus Russell Wilson, and of course the battle of the number one running backs, Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey. So we're just going to have to see how it plays out, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, we're all looking to see a very heavy-hitting matchup this week, so we'll keep watching it closely in Week 4. The only other intra-squad matchup of Week 4 is going to be when my Mr. Marbles take on Stained Wall of Peen. Now, I tried to make some changes to my roster with some activity on the waiver wire, but I lost every single waiver bid.
You lose.
I also tried making a trade, but we all know how that went down, don't we? Now, I'll end up sticking with the roster, or a roster very similar to the one I ran last week, but we'll see if it's enough to hold off the 1-2 punch of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They didn't do too hot last week, but they have a much more favorable matchup this week against the Eagles' vulnerable defense. Now, between Glenn and I, we have 5 players competing on Thursday night, so we'll get a feel for how this matchup is shaping up really early on. Now that's it for this week's Commissioner Update. We'll be keeping an eye on all the matchups this weekend, and we'll make sure you're all up to date on all things McGibblets Fantasy League. With Ethan, Sub Rosa Comeback Tour Cook, I'm Andrew, Mr. Marbles Chambers. We are your co-commissioners for McGibblets Fantasy League. Best of luck in your matchups this week. We'll see you next week. Peace.